Hi, Brian here from Sipkens Nurseries, and I just wanted to introduce you to spring flowering bulbs. So here it is October, and spring flowering bulbs are best planted in the cool of the fall so that they are prepped and ready and going to give you a very good show next spring. Many times people get excited and they want to buy tulips or daffodils or hyacinths in the spring, and that's okay because we do take bulbs in the fall and we plant them up for spring sales. But if you want them in your garden, the best time for planting is actually in the fall. So what we recommend people to do is you take your bulbs and here at the garden center, we've got a pretty good selection. We have a lot of Canadian, not Ontarian, we have a lot of Canadian grown tulip bulbs. They're from the province of PEI. And we have gift packs, which have blended colors for yourself. You gift it to yourself, of course, or you can gift it to a friend. And we have these ones that are pre-mixed for timing and color, and it gives you a really nice spring show. We also, of course, have singles here on the side, and they're all beautiful Canadian names like Caribou or Canoe or Acadie. And these ones here are all really high quality bulbs grown in Canada, and they are ready for planting. So these bulbs right here, they go dormant in the summer, and they subtract all the nutrients from the leaves from the spring, and over summer they do nothing. They just go fully dormant, all the root dies off, but the plant is kind of like an onion with all its layers, and it stores the energy inside. As soon as you plant these in the fall, the plants sense moisture in the ground. And as they sense moisture, they're going to put out roots and get charged and ready for a spring planting. So as they root out, they want to find some nutrients. So definitely where you're going to be planting, take the time to improve your soil. And when we say improve your soil, we mean take what you have and make it better. So if you have a clay loam or a sandy soil, definitely work in organic materials such as manure, add fertilizers like bone meal or chicken manure, and we find that those nutrients really get those bulbs charged for spring. Now, we try to always buy really good quality bulbs here, and you'll find that when you're buying a very generous sized daffodil bulb, in the spring, it oftentimes will put on 2 to 3 flower stalks. And that's far superior than the little bulbs, which you can find in value packs or landscaper bags, which only about 80 to 90% of those will actually have a flower stalk in them, and that is because of size. So when it comes to bulbs, size does matter because that's all the energy stored inside of them. So adding a mineral fertilizer like bone meal here is very accessible nutrients, and we would add into the bottom of a hole a quart cup and work that into the soil, and then add the bulbs on top of that. So as the roots grow down, they grow down into the nutrients. And whether you're using bone meal or chicken manure, both of those work very well. And we actually also recommend chicken manure and blood meal, both natural fertilizers, for the purpose of repelling animals that like to dig up your bulbs right after you plant it. And some people have really good success using those fertilizers, yes, for growing the plants, but also for keeping bulb diggers away. So after you've improved the soil and gotten the plants planted, we try to do it so that the top of the bulb is about 4 inches below grade for large bulbs like tulips, daffodils, and hyacinths. And we plant a little more shallow for small bulbs like scilla or muscari or snowdrops, crocuses, small bulbs, and just a couple inches underground is sufficient. So after they've been planted, water them in thoroughly, and you'll find that those plants, if you pull them out of the ground in 2 to 3 weeks, have already started putting out new root. And that new root was good. It's charging the plant for winter storage, so it won't float away if it gets too wet or dry out over winter. We want these bulbs to be well hydrated, charged with nutrients, so that in the spring you get bigger and more bountiful blooms. Now, after they bloom in the spring, some people like to just get rid of the old flower stalks and chop them down. But it is best to actually let the plants go dormant naturally. A little bit more slowly, you'll find that the plants charge nutrient better. And what I do in my garden is I actually will intentionally fertilize the plants, the bulbs, as they're blooming, so that after they finish and they're subtracting the energy, they're actually going to pick up a little bit of that nutrient as well. Because the roots on the bulbs don't die off until early summer when it gets quite dry. So here we've got a good selection of different types of tulips, on this side, and we've got daffodils on this side here. The daffodils, the botanical name is narcissus, so that's what you're going to see on the packaging. Lots of different styles. So we've got singles and doubles, some that have a little bit more of the trumpet look, some that have a little bit of a double or a peony center on them, and different colors. And the really nice thing about daffodils is they do multiply fairly quickly in groupings. They don't spread wildly, but if you put a grouping of 3 to 4 bulbs together in the same hole, you will find that if the plants are well watered and they're in rich soil, they will multiply and form larger and larger clump each year. So after 5 years, you can oftentimes have a nice, generous clump, which really shows well in the spring. As we move across here, we've got other daffodils, and especially the Dutch Master here are really, really large bulbs. And yes, the really large bulbs are more expensive than the smaller bulbs, but you're going to get a lot better flowers out of them. So we have the beautiful Ice Follies, the Dutch Master, which is the classic bright yellow one. And then as we come around the other side here, we do have the giant alliums, which give you those really big globe flowers of the purple and blue tones in the spring. And we've got hyacinths. Now hyacinths, I really like hyacinths because it is an early bloomer, but they're exceptionally fragrant. And some people find fragrances, especially artificial fragrances, oppressive or a little hard on the senses in the spring. But the natural fragrances of hyacinths, yes, they're very heady fragrances, but I find that natural fragrances don't bother people near as much. So don't be too afraid to plant very fragrant bulbs. And it's one of the first fragrances that you'll find in the spring for flowers, which is really nice. So pastels, bright colors, and the hyacinths, like the daffodils or the tulips, will multiply over time. Tulips, I find, multiply slowly, so that out of 15 flower bulbs, you might get 16 flowers the next year, and maybe 17 or 18 the year after. But they do multiply if they're taken care of. And then on this side here, we also have the fancier flowering tulips, the ones that are more frilled or parrot or flame style flowers, or fully double, like the peonies, or here we have Royal Centennial. And that is kind of the quick tour of the biggest batches of bulbs that we have. But also on this side here, we've got crocuses and fritillaria and snowdrops. Now, crocuses, some people don't realize, but there are fall blooming crocuses as well as spring blooming crocuses. So the speciosa here and the double water lily, these are fall flowering ones. And that's very unique because as everything goes dormant in the garden in the fall, your hostas are turned yellow, they're dropping down. I find that that is a really good place to plant some of these because it will give you that last little burst of flower in October and sometimes even as late as November. So there's nothing wrong with having flowers in the garden in October. Oftentimes we're trained to think that flowers are supposed to come out in the spring, but there's no reason you can't have some of that beauty hanging on real late in the season. And that is flowering bulbs that should be planted in the fall for spring, but we'll also have them available in spring as potted flowers. If you have any questions, feel free to email us or message us on Facebook, and we will give you a little bit more information to help you succeed in planting spring flowering bulbs.